What is good? I go by Osiris. The channel is stuck in the middle. Thank you for joining. Critical thinking is more important nowadays than ever. There's an opinion editorial in the New York Times by Charlie Warzel that says, I quote, critical thinking, as we're taught to do it, isn't helping in the fight against misinformation. So when I first saw that title, it really piqued my interest. That's the whole purpose of the title, is to get you to jump into it. The topic of critical thinking is very relevant. It's a hot topic with me. I just did a video called Empower Me, which basically touches on these same principles. And the article came out and it's right on point. So I had to follow up with it. I went into the article with an open mind. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not doing this critical thinking thing right. Don't forget, check me out on odyssey.com. I'll have the link in the description and in the chat. I have some videos on Odyssey that I won't have on YouTube for political reasons. And if you check it out, most recent one was on Rush Limbaugh versus Barack Obama. And the subject of critical thinking came up again because that's what Rush Limbaugh made you do. So the article talks about a method. This is how the article, these 4 steps, is how the article describes as the best way to think critically in our day and age. And of course, everything has to have some type of catchy acronym. And that's probably the only reason I can understand for number 1 in the method. Stop. What? the first step in their method of critically thinking is to stop. And I think I get what they mean. I think they mean more pause. Don't rush, whatever. Step number 2, investigate the source. I found that very funny. What does the source have to do with the information that they're providing? Now, don't get me wrong. I retweet a lot of things and I'm not always vetting the source. If you look in some people's Twitter bios, they will say a retweet does not equal an endorsement. This critical thinking that I'm talking about here is just the information that is being shared. So if someone's tweeting something on Twitter and it's from CNN, CNN is the real source, not the person who's tweeting it, unless it's their opinion. This article really didn't deal with opinions. It really is covering more facts to me. And much of what we get out there are narratives and opinions. You can't just talk about facts. This article comes dangerously close to saying, investigate the source, see where their political leanings are. Search Wikipedia? This article mentions twice searching Wikipedia as a way to vet a source. Ridiculous. You can only vet a source by it takes time to listen to what they have to say, reading their books, listening to their podcasts. Vetting a source is not something that takes 2 seconds. And that's what this article is trying to say. It only takes 2 seconds, 90 seconds, search Wikipedia. Huh? Anybody can write anything about me or you in Wikipedia that's completely untrue. The reason why people want to put you in a category is because they want to know, are you with, for example, the blue cult? Are you with the blue cult or the red cult? So you put that bandana on. That's why some people have had trouble with me. I'm not in any one of those gangs. Sorry. I'm not going to fit in the box that you want me to. Sorry. I have principles and there's no party that I would agree with on everything. So I'm not wearing the red or blue bandana. So people want to put that on you because they don't know whether to preemptively love you or hate you in the age of grifting. So they need to put a red bandana on me or a blue one on me to say, oh, he's blue. Not even blue. He's blue and he's a progressive. So he has to agree with these things and I will agree with him and I will disagree with him. No, I'm a human being. I'll agree with some things with progressives, some things with conservatives, something with independents, some things with liberals. But that's what that investigate the source is. That's really where it's getting at. Very harmful stuff. Find better coverage is number 3. What? What does that even mean? No, listen to the verbiage here. The verbiage is find better. Find better coverage. It didn't say find additional, verify in additional places. It said find better coverage. So you know what that means? You keep finding coverage until it brings you back to CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS, mainstream, New York Times, Washington Post, even Washington Journal. It just brings you back to mainstream, which I think is perfectly fine. I watch mainstream, read everything to verify facts, but I don't need to get better coverage necessarily. I might not. Odd way to word it. What does that mean? That's assuming. So they're saying that they're assuming that there's always better coverage to find. How is that possible? That's not always possible. And number 4 is really the only legitimate piece to their method. Trace claims, quotas, and media to the original context. Yes. So I don't spell that out. I'll give you my critical thinking process. It's very simple. It doesn't have a fancy acronym, but that's part of it. Just common sense. So let's talk about one of the examples that the article touches on. It touches on this website called Stormfront, which I am not familiar with. So I will tell you how they labeled the website, but I can't confirm that. I'm not familiar with the website. But it was interesting that they started with a website that they considered to be a white supremacist or racist website. That's a reach of an example, huh? Like, why didn't they just use an example from the New York Times or CNN or CBS or any mainstream media? Why'd they start with some alt? It sounds like, I don't know it, but some alt-right site, because it's easy to discredit and say investigate the source so you can discredit it, find better coverage so you can move away from that alt source to a mainstream source. Because I'm interested to hear how Charlie Warzel would explain. Say I start with the New York Times. Where do I find better coverage? How do I investigate the source? So you see why I say this article isn't about critical thinking. It's about funneling you back to the, big tech, mainstream media. Stay away from these alternative narratives out there. No, I'm fine. I want to hear all the narratives. I'm a big boy. I can decide where I go, what I believe in. I'm good. Thank you though. If they're basically telling you. So let me quote for the article here. If you're on this Stormfront website, for example, even if you see through the horrible rhetoric, at the end of the day, you gave that place however many minutes of your time, Mr. Caulfield said. Even with good intentions, you run the risk of misunderstanding something because Stormfront users are way better at propaganda than you. You won't get less racist reading Stormfront critically, but you might be overloaded by information and overwhelmed. What are you, my daddy? What the? This reminds me of the video I did, like, Dr. Fauci, you're not my daddy. What is? They're way better at propaganda than you. What does that even mean? I'm not trying to get into a propaganda battle with the Stormfront website. If they have an article that interests me, then I'm going to read it. What is that? What, I don't even understand what that comes from. It sounds like, to me, they're saying, don't go here. We want to protect you because you're going to be radicalized, which is a possible outcome. But if you think critically, you probably won't. People who are radicalized are not critical thinkers. They're doing exactly what this article says. The Stormfront website would be saying the same thing about the New York Times. No, if you find something that interests you, read it. I don't care what the source is. New York Times had this article. I read it multiple times. Even though I disagree with it, I enjoy my time I spent with this article. I did a video on it. I'm doing a video on it right now. You might get overloaded in information and overwhelmed. So this article is supposed to be helping you think critically. and it's telling you where to and where not to spend your time. Does that feel empowering to you? My message is, if you see something on Storefront, if you're there, obviously you're there for a reason. I've never been there before. If that's where you want to spend your time on Storefront. It's not illegal to be racist. Doesn't mean you guarantee to keep your job or you can't hire people based on your racism. But just in a vacuum, like walking around in the world or in home reading an article, it's not illegal to be racist. It's not illegal to be. I assume this is a white majority website. It's not illegal for me as a black man to go on Stormfront just to see what's going on. That's not illegal. So if you want to go on there, go on there. But here we get to my message, my thought. Just ask yourself one question when you go on to any website, regardless of what it is. Who are they trying to empower? If they're not trying to empower you and you spend time on the website, then you're helping empower whoever they are trying to help empower. So if it's a white supremacist random website and it's some group, like some white supremacist group, and they're not really empowering you to be a better person, they're really empowering the group by recruiting you or trying to make you agree with them when it doesn't make sense, I'm out. That's not for me. But you're a grown adult. You've got to make those decisions for yourself. So my method only has one step, but it is complicated because when you look at, is somebody empowering you, you have to find out, are they telling the truth? And here is a big, big, big miss in this article. This article never touched on it. Maybe it's just me, but there's going to be, for me, I would say probably 50% of the time, I'm not able to answer the question of who they are trying to empower. And maybe it's just high for me because I'm not trusting, I'm not as smart as many people out there, whatever the reason is. For me, it's about 50% of the time. And that's a possibility. This article never brings up the possibility of you're not going to be able to know 100% what the truth is because there's people on both sides with different facts. Or it's an opinion article and you haven't formed your opinion. It's okay. I'm going to give you examples of what I mean by that. I haven't made a video on the minimum wage discussion, the $15 minimum wage. I'm reading economists, I'm reading people, and I'm hearing things on both sides. I am not an expert on this. I really am only going to do videos where I feel like I'm confident in the, doesn't mean I'm right. I just feel confident enough to share my thoughts with the world. I don't have an opinion on the $15 minimum wage yet. I'm still absorbing facts. It might be 3 months, tomorrow, 2 years, never that I really understand and am confident enough to know what the right answer is on, do we raise the minimum wage? I'm leaning towards that's not a smart thing for government to get involved with and just to mandate across the board when our country is in so many different places, each state's different, but I'm not confident enough. So I'm undecided. Are they trying to empower me? Biden progressives who really preach raise the minimum wage? I don't know. That's okay. There has to be a percentage of times where you don't know. Let me give you another one. Climate change. Everybody's talking about climate change. And that's another one where they say, listen to the science. Well, the science is all over the map. Science has become politicized just like everything else in our world. Religion has become politicized. Viruses have become politicized. Impeaching the president has become politicized. Our government agencies, in my opinion, including the FBI, CIA, Attorney General, the whole DOJ, have become politicized. So climate change is very similar to minimum wage. I'm not sure. But here's why I am on the side of let's go to sustainable energy. Because in the case that those scientists are right, and that we only have so much longer, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, whatever, left on the planet to make adjustments, Why wouldn't we err on the side of caution? We have to take care of people who have jobs in fossil fuel industries. We can't snap our fingers and change. But my common sense, my critical thinking says, even though I don't know which side of the science is accurate, and this is where I disagreed with Rush Limbaugh completely, he was wrong. He wasn't trying to empower me on this one. Is that why would you not err on the side of caution? I have not heard anyone be able to answer that question and say, this is why we shouldn't. The only retort to that are the jobs in the fossil fuel. And I'm sorry, it's easy for me to say because I'm not in the fossil fuel industry, but that's not a good enough answer. I want to protect those jobs. I don't want anybody to lose their job. We have to find a good transition, but that's not a good enough answer. That does not trump protecting the planet, erring on the side of protecting the planet. So that's an example of how I think that critically through those two scenarios. And I have a YouTube channel, and this is going to be discrediting myself, but it's difficult sometimes to articulate my positions. I go back, listen to a video, I'm like, that wasn't very clear. Examples are probably the best way. Let me give you one more example before I end this video. The whole Occupy Wall Street 2.0 GameStop of Wall Street bets situation. Here's a clip from someone speaking about it, and I don't even know who it is. Someone, if you could in the comments, if you know who he is. I think I've seen him all over the place on TV and just forgot his name. But that's a good example too. So he's the source right now, and I don't know who he is. And if you follow this SIFT method, it says stop, investigate the source. No, I don't need to do that. I don't care who he is. I can listen to what he's saying and analyze that. So let's play this video and I'll talk about it.
Maybe you're learning here. Maybe it's fun, fine. Maybe it's a movement. But be prepared to lose 80 to 90% of it. And if it's still worth it, then have at it. But the biggest loss of capital here will be the human capital of young men who are sitting and staring at their phone and watching the price of Bitcoin or the price of AMC. And ask yourself, would you be better off taking that 1, 2, or 3 hours a day and working out, trying to form relationships with mentors, with romantic relationships, with people at work, getting great at something so you can be the person on the other side of the trade? The greatest loss in capital here is from young men who are more prone to gambling addiction, who don't understand the markets. I think we are setting ourselves up similar to how there's a ton of young women out there who became very depressed by sitting in their rooms looking at Instagram. Self-cutting and self-harm skyrocket. I think you are going to see an explosion in young male depression, and I think a lot of it is going to be reverse engineered to apps that convince you you're part of a movement or physically addict you to your phone. Ask yourself, would your time staring at Robinhood be better spent somewhere else? That is the real capital destruction that is taking place here.
This was an incredible moment. So this is such a good example to use to compare the Sift method to my method. Sift method says stop. So it really is like, don't even listen to it. Stop. Investigate the source. So I would have to find out who this is, there's some value to that, but that's not my process. So find out who that is and vet the source. They say Wikipedia him. How do you find somebody out? That Wikipedia thing really discredited this article a lot. It says find better coverage. So I will agree I did do that. I did find, I wouldn't call it better coverage. So it really just goes back to I found someone who empowered me. So let me go to my way. Is he empowering me? Notice the question, is he empowering me or not, does not really say it matters who he is. He could be a bot. This could be in a few years, we're going to have artificial intelligence that will be able to have conversations with us just as much as this guy is, who will be able to be interviewed on TV, that will be on Twitter and social media. It will be a bot. And There's already some out there, but it would even be better that you literally couldn't tell it from a human to a bot. The bot couldn't even tell whether it was a human or a bot. That's happening. That's going to happen. So forget about the source. And I'm asking myself first, is there truth to what he's saying? That young men, they could be better off working out, finding mentors, finding romance in their life. He brought up finding romance in their life. And is it possible that people would lose a lot of money? Is it possible that people would lose 80, 90% of their money? All of it. Every single thing he said, there was some truth to it. And I trust that guy about this much. Why? He had no empowering message with it, at least in that clip. So it's only a 1 minute, 19-second clip. And I can appreciate that I did not hear the whole show. So I will leave room to be wrong. Always leave room to be wrong. But from that clip there, that clip didn't empower me. So if he had said all that stuff, he empowered the hedge fund managers, the rich people who pay people to manage their money, people who are already educated in the stock market and could do options and know about all this stuff. They are empowered because they are the ones that would be able to play in this game of the market and make money. And you, as the average Joe, you're too stupid. Don't get into it. He never had a message of, well, here's some websites to read up on if you are going to do it. You can make some money off of this. Interest rates are low. You can. Right now, what they were doing was a short-term strategy with GameStop. Long-term is better. It's safer. You won't have to worry. You won't have to check. He didn't have any of that empowering message with it. Listen to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban went on the actual Wall Street Bets website. He wasn't on MSNBC. Literally went on to the website. And let me give you some comments that Mark made on there. Mark Cuban. If you can afford to hold the stock, you hold it. I don't own it, but that's what I would do. Why? Because when Robinhood and the other online brokers open it back up to buyers, then we will see what Wall Street Bets is really made of. When I buy a stock, I make sure I know why I'm buying it. Then I hold on for dear life until I learn that something has changed. The price may go up or down, but I still believe in the logic. But if I still believe in the logic that made me buy the asset, I don't sell. If something changed that I didn't expect, then I look at selling. And then he ends on such a uplifting message. Final thought. Thanks for the great questions. Thanks for changing the game. Thanks for taking on Wall Street. Thanks for making kids around the country, if not the world, including my son and daughter. Wall Street Bets changed the game far more than everyone on this board will ever get credit for. That said, you will all do this again. You will go after Wall Street, and the next time you will be smarter. I'm going to stop there. He's all good stuff. And you see that the next time you'll be smarter. You see the two messages and why you just have to ask yourself, who's empowering me? So if I'm a hedge fund manager, I'm probably going to side with the first guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just for me, it's obviously Mark Cuban. I'm going to end on this. What do I want this show to be about? Recently, with Rush Limbaugh passing, I've actually lost some followers over my opinion on Rush Limbaugh. And if you want to hear my opinion, I've got two videos on it, one on Odyssey and one on YouTube that you can listen. But it really helped me see the influence that people like Rush had in me, the positive influence, even though he wasn't perfect. And it really helped me find out what I want this show to be about. So I say, I want this show to be about people. I want it to be a populist show. Yes, but that's not how I would describe it. Here's how I will describe this show. Number one, I want to eventually create a community. I'm a very introverted person, believe it or not. I don't know if you can tell from the camera or not, but I want to create a community where it's Rush Limbaugh did that, where he created a community. His was right wing, but I want an independent thinking, whether if you're left, right, whatever. There's only two requirements. That's it. I don't care where you stand politically or whatever else. One, you're open to thinking critically. And that's challenging me, challenging each other. respectfully. It's welcomed, expected, and appreciated. Critical thinking. Number two, we put love of our country, the United States, over any other identity. If you're not in the United States, don't worry. Love for fellow human comes even above that. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you listening. Take care.